back to the channel. So I was going to start off by making a wiring harness and getting the lights installed, but then I remembered I don't have any nice connectors. So we'll save that later on in the video. I'll go get some connectors at some point and we'll take care of that. But what we will do right now is we will start off, if I drop everything, hold on a second here. We're going to go ahead and put a body lift on, take care of that, and a motor mount lift. I'll show you how to do that. We'll take care of it. But before we install this, let me show you why we're going to put the body lift on. Like many people, I used to think body lifts were absolutely ridiculous and pointless until I really started off-roading. There are two main reasons why we're going to put a body lift on this thing. The main one is tire clearance. So for the body lift on TJ specifically, I ran across a forum one time where someone did some math, and essentially what they figured out is 1 inch of body lift is equal to something like 3 inches of suspension lift. So you can do a lot. Maybe it's 2 inches. I can't remember exactly, but by putting a 1 inch body lift on here, you can add some really big tires to a stock Jeep. And we aren't lifting this one, right? We got highline fenders, a lot more clearance in the rear. We can already probably run 35s or 37s without modifying the suspension at all. But, gentlemen, the name of the game is tire clearance for us. We want big, beefy, meaty tires on this thing. I'm really confident we're going to run 37s right now with the way we have this set up. But with a 1 inch body lift, 38s, 39s, with no suspension modification, that'd be awesome. The other thing this is important for us because we're not lifting this Jeep, we got to do something about that skid plate. It hangs down a little too low for us. We're going to get all our lift from the tires, right? So by doing a body lift, we'll be able to tug that skid plate nice and high, perfectly flat on this particular Jeep. That's going to gain us about that much, which is, that's a lot. So let's go ahead, let's slam the body lift on here, and then we'll tackle the motor mount lift, and I'll show you why that's crucial and important for this Jeep as well. So by doing this, we get to keep the geometry of our suspension completely factory. I mean, factory angles and everything, which, to be honest, that's the best it's ever going to be. Now, there are some companies out there who do some really awesome custom suspension work, and you get very good geometry out of those, but it requires long arms, has required a lot of work to get the geometry there, and it's very good. But if you can modify your Jeep and put the money into just moving the body out of the way, keeping the factory suspension under it, keeping that awesome geometry that it comes from, well, then I think we're going to have a really good rig off-road. Really good. It's going to be really stable, and it's going to ride really awesome. It's just going to be a fun Jeep because we don't have all the harsh angles from steep control arms, or we don't have weird geometry going on with the steering because we've lifted it so high. So by doing this, we're eliminating a lot of stuff and making the project way cheaper. But to be honest, it's probably going to be a better off-road rig than most Jeeps out there by doing it this way. That's the goal anyway. We'll find out. Let's get this body lift installed. Now we're going to loosen the fan shroud because the radiator is connected to the body. We have a mechanical fan sitting inside the shroud, so if we lift the body high enough to get these pucks in there, we risk damaging the radiator by the fan running into it. So we're just going to loosen the shroud, set it here. That's all we need to do. Just a closer look what I'm talking about. We disconnected the shroud so it can free float here. Because if we don't, when we go to jack the body up, the bottom of the shroud is going to run into the fan. We just don't want to damage anything. I just want to get a final look at this thing before we lift it. So take a look, remember what it looks like, and then we'll compare it after the body lift. See if it's noticeable. All right, already undid my body bolts because of the rock slider install from the last video. So don't have to worry about that. So we're going to start jacking this thing up here. And if you don't have rock sliders yet, that's okay. Right here, there's a nice channel. Put yourself a block of wood along it, and then use another block of wood on your jack to get the height, and you'll be just fine. You won't bend or hurt anything. That channel's pretty strong up there. But for me, I'm gonna go back here since I do have rock sliders. I can lift on those. You're gonna have to go pretty high. Something like that. Here's what the kit looks like. There's two versions. This guy is aluminum. Went with it because they're a bit better. But you can go with poly blocks. I have that on my TJ. It's just fine. Just if you go with the poly blocks, you got to be careful not to over tighten. All right, now we're ready. Now to get these bolts started, since this Jeep was rolled and the body's not straight, it's going to be a little tricky, but your Jeep will be just fine. You don't have to take all the bolts out. Loosen the opposite side, take the bolts out of the side you're working on completely. Also, when you go to put these new bolts in, you're going to want to put anti-seize on them in case you ever got to take them out. These are notorious for seizing in there. Let me tell you, as someone who's had one seize, it is not fun. The amount of work you have to do to get the captured nut out of the body just sucks. So get yourself a cheap little thing of anti-seize the bolts, and you'll be fine. We have to leave this side loose since we got to jack up the opposite side. So we're just going to make sure they're threaded all the way, and they are. We'll have to let it down to hit that one because the body's a little tweaked. You also have one in there, and it's going to be hard for me to show you, but it's the same principle as this guy right here. You just put the block and put the bolt in. Don't forget to put these isolators on there. They need to go on there. I'm using, again, my body's tweaked on this Jeep because it was on a rollover. So I'm just making sure everything is lined up before I actually get these any kind of cinch down. That's why I didn't put the isolator on there. But now that I know these holes are lined up, I'm going to put the isolator on there and just leave it loose and we'll be okay. So camera died, but as you can see, I pounded some of the dent out, got it a bit more straight. We got to reach in here. So this is the grill support bump right here. We got to pull that out. And I like to use a little bit of silicone on these. It helps the rubber slip out of the hole. There we go. Just like that. Then what you'll do is there's two sides to this spacer. You have a side that's got a bore in it, the side that's flush. This flush is going to go up against the grill, and your stop here is going to go right in there like that. And then we're going to slip that in there, assuming I have the jack high enough. I do. Then you're going to take your bolt, and you probably don't need anti-seize, but these are aluminum, so I'm just going to put a little on there anyway, in case we ever do want to take this apart. Because I imagine someday we're going to replace this grill, so I'm going to be able to get that off. And you just go right down in here. So to show you what that looks like, it's that bolt right down in there. That's all you're doing. Yeah, that's a nice way to affix that. Makes it easy. And your last step, just go around and tighten everything up. So I wanted to show you this before I tighten it down. This is the rearmost body mount on the driver's side, and there's a good 1/2 inch of gap here, and all the other mounts are tightened down. So the body definitely has some twist to it, that's for sure. On top of that, the driver's side door, once I undid all the body mounts, the driver's side door has a problem kind of shutting all the way. It's definitely smacking on the latch. I could adjust it out, but what I'm hoping is that if we use this mount and go slow and suck the body back down, and we'll take the twist back out of it, and then that door will shut correctly. But we'll just go nice and slow here. All right, so the plans are changing this morning. I was gonna do the motor mounts, but I found a really good deal on some tires and wheels. I'm mainly after the wheels, honestly, double bead locks for this thing. But we got a little bit of drive. So let's get in the truck and let's go pick these things up. Tell you what, this is a loyal old truck. 222,000 miles, all stock, all original. Well, except for the transmission, but it's a Dodge, so of course. But yeah, she's a good old truck. All right, we got them. Got the tires. They're 37 by 1250, 16 and a half. These are Goodyear Wranglers. I think they're off of a Humvee, and these are Humvee recentered wheels. So I'm super excited to see how it looks on the Jeep project. Those are gonna be awesome wheel and tire combo for what we're doing. I'm excited. This thing's gonna look awesome. Also, you can't really beat the drive to go get them. All right, back on the road. Man, these things they look cool. They need a little cleaning, and we'll do that later. We were going to do a motor mount lift, but I'm a child, so I need to see how these look on the Jeep like right now. We'll get to the motor mount lift a little later. The problem is, though, I can't get the tires on because they put a locking lug nut on this thing, and then they lost the lock. And I can't find a serial number or anything to figure out what these are, so we're going to have to use alternative means to, well, attempt to remove them. All right, we're all set up here, and to be honest with you, I've never had to deal with this before. I've never lost a lock to my locking lug nuts, and I probably wouldn't run them on this Jeep. But the best I can come up with is taking a really big nut that I have and just welding it on here, and hopefully it doesn't twist off, and if it does, we'll just keep welding it until we get it. So yeah, the only thing to do is that, I guess. Ooh, I think it's just going to twist off. Yeah. All right, we're going to try this again. We're going to try to move my magnetic welding clamp right onto the nut here. Hopefully get a little bit better attachment, because it's not doing so hot the other way. So let's see if we can give this a shot. Oh, there we go. That worked. Just had to get enough on it. Just look at it. Look at it with those 37s. Man, it looks cool. I love the bead locks. I love the tires. This thing is just, look, I cannot wait to get this on the trail now. It looks so cool. So dang cool. And it grew a lot. Like a lot. Which is nice, since we're not running a lift kit on this thing. All right, so I think we're actually finally going to tackle the blinkers. So let's get to that. Let me show you what we're gonna do. All right, lights. So we still have the tail lights to do. We're gonna make a wiring harness here shortly. I'll show you how to do that very, very easy. For the blinkers, we're just gonna use these 3/4 inch marker lights. I think they're going to be pretty easy to wire up and pretty easy to install because we just have to pop a hole in there. I'll show you how to do that. I just realized though that we have clear and amber, which is hilarious to me. I didn't know that I did that. So something is getting clear and something is getting amber. Maybe we'll put amber just in the front and the clear in the other spot that I think. So let's do the taillights first because that's going to be not tricky. And well, yeah, anyway, taillights first. Before we go ahead and make the wiring harness here, I want to take a look at this real quick. This is a ratcheting crimper. I've never owned one of these, never used one. I've always just used the crimper on the back of my strippers, and I've gotten really good at it. These are small and easy and quick, but they don't always do the best job crimping these nicely, and you kind of have to get a feel for how hard you can crimp so that you don't destroy the casing on these guys so they still seal. But I thought, you know what, this would be interesting to see. I've seen videos of other people using them, but I've never had one myself, and I thought, you know what, since we're doing more and more electrical, more wiring, might as well get one so we can just crimp stuff a little nicer. All right, let's cut this wiring harness apart and go from there. We'll test it as we're using it. It is really nice though. So for the Jeep, we're gonna rock these truck light LED rear tail lights. They're just flush, they're clean, they're easy. And I don't know, it's just the look that we wanted. You can totally reuse this if you have the right armor, but we just wanted to go with this look. So these, though, come with this wiring harness here. And it's kind of funny because this plug clearly does not match this plug. So what we're going to do, we're just going to nip the plug off of here because we don't need this light anymore. Like so. Pull back some of that insulation here. All right, that's done. And then this specific tail light, they had some sort of, I don't know, 4-way plug or something tapped into it. So we're just going to delete this. We don't need this. We're not going to run a 4-way plug on this Jeep. It's not going to tow nothing. So let's see how this works. We're going to go from black on the LED side to yellow and black on the Jeep side. Okay. I think what you do is just put this right in the middle. I think you just give her all the way. Yeah, that's apparently what you do, but I think I have to get better at centering this thing because I missed that wire completely. So we'll just come over here and crimp that side. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. Okay, now the white is going to be ground, so we're going to put these two together. There we are, wiring harness. I like these. They're a little different to use because I'm used to just being able to like crimp them down and be done. This takes a few more hands. This is definitely not something you're going to stick up in an engine and use, but for sitting on the bench here getting nice crimps, I like it. I like it a lot. Sure glad I have M12 tools because you wouldn't be able to do that with anything else. Here, on the next one. See if that works. Sweet. Alright, now that these are done, we can move on to the front. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. That looks nice. Like it. What I did for this guy, this is the side marker. I'm going to glue him in here. This is a hole that already exists, and he kind of fits. But we'll glue him in there, and then that'll be good. And we got to figure out the wiring code now. So I did some research. I could not find it. So we're just going to plug these wires up and see what happens. So this is your 3-wire plug. This is for the front. This is your 2-wire for the side. And we'll deal with the side here in a second. Let's go check if this side works before we go any further, before I crimp all that down. That one's working, and that one's working. Blinker. So here's the flasher relay that you need for a 98. If you have a newer Jeep, like an 04 and 05 on a TJ, you'll need one with 5 prongs. The TJ one I think is easier to replace, but the flasher relay for the later TJ I think is easier to replace. But this relay is up under the dash here somewhere. It's a little bit of a reach to get to. That is your flasher relay. So it's going to be easier if you take this off. I don't know what the heck the other thing was that I was taking apart. Now I just got to figure out how this one comes off. Let's see what now you do. Okay. Alright, I've been fighting with this thing for way too long, and I finally found what I think is the problem. So, this side was working right, then that side was not working when I wired it up. No matter which way, I tried a whole bunch of stuff. The rear was working okay, so I thought maybe I had a short back here causing the front to not work. So I disconnected all my wiring harnesses back here. That did nothing. And then I started tearing into the dash because I had this issue. So these gauges don't work unless you turn the right blinker on and they start working. Or if you pull the headlight switch all the way out, well, now they're not working, but they were working when you did that. I don't know. So all this is being really, really strange. And I think I found the problem. After tearing the entire dash apart, tearing the front apart, I have the harness completely unplugged right here for the whole front, so anything I did up there is negated. All the harnesses in the rear are removed. I found this right there. So now I'm going to pull this whole harness apart here and fix all those wires and see if that fixes the issue. Still have a little bit more to do on here, but I was concerned that this wasn't working, so let's take a look now. Oh, yeah. Okay. Everything seems to be working again. Dome light. Okay. All right. Okay. Now that everything is working, I'll fix this, and then we'll go back to rewiring the, the headlights. Whew. Man, I thought I was going to have to tear the whole wiring apart in this thing. Although I kind of did. Cool. Alright, so I think I'm going to sit here and lick my wounds for a while, because that blinker, I just can't figure it out. I don't know what's going on. It's starting to really piss me off. I know there's a reverse polarity dealio that we have to deal with, and I got to do some research and figure it out, because it's really making me mad that it's not working correctly. So we're just going to leave that alone. We're going to end the video. We're going to leave that alone, and I'm not going to deal with it right now. And we're going to go on to other stuff. Side note, go note all those boxes are that's been in the video for the past little bit. That is a cooling system update. We're going to do an 09 Cummins. We're going to switch some stuff out and make it more manual. So that's a cool video. Stay tuned for that one to come up, because I think that'll be quite a lot of fun. But yeah, that blinker, she's really making me angry. We're so close to having this thing on the road, and I can't get that stupid thing to work correctly, even after I fixed all the mess down there with that wiring. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And, well, I hope to see you in the next video if I can figure out what the heck to do with that thing. All right. I'm going to sit here for a while.